I wouldn't mind being addicted to
Games.
Working out.
reading.
What is happening?
Man, I was very excited to do this podcast. That answer just went so many different directions. No, let's not get into that. But let's get into it.
Games and working out.
Yes.
What kind of games?
All kinds of games. Life's a game.
Okay.
It's an addiction.
Well, Shamir,
That has to be the worst answer, I have to say.
It's the best answer. You just you cannot fathom the
It's not-
intellectual property of the game.
It's not
intellectual
productive.
property of the game.
Of the game.
The intellectual property.
The intellectual property that you cannot fathom.
And with
Okay.
working out.
Like, give me an example
Of what?
of a game
You
that
don't
you would want to.
You know what a game is?
No, I want an example of a game that you would.
Like,
want
how's
to
it
be
beneficial?
addicted
Faster response time.
Okay.
Knowledge games right there. You can learn shit.
to? Learn shit.
Guitar games. Rock band. I learned how to play the drums because of that. I learned how to sing notes because of that. There's so many games out there that can teach you shit. So
Nice try.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
I hear that from my brother all the
7
time. Like,
seconds.
where he's like,
faster response time, dude.
my reflexes get. I'm just like, there's plenty of ways that you can better your reflexes, and also how useful.
My decision making is much quicker than most people because I play video games. That's a fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I guess. And
That's fine.
okay, with working out, right? You either end up a gym rat or you end up a cloud.
Oh, right. But the
Like
thing is,
a literal
there's literally
cumulonimbus.
absolutely nothing wrong with being a gym rat as long as you don't act like you know it all.
The
But
thing
that's
with
what most gym rats do.
The thing with working out is
That's-
if you do it all the time, unless it's like on brand for you,
Mhm.
it's like, again, what is it doing? Like, that's what I don't get. Like, how is it?
Okay, I got good. Okay, so it keeps you good physically. So for whatever else it needs to help you with, like you look good. It keeps
Okay.
you tip top mentally. So like you'll be on your best mental game. It also helps you release stress, so you won't be bearing a lot on your shoulders.
Okay.
It keeps your body like for
But
whatever
the
you want to
people that
do in your
spend
life.
like
It'll keep you.
hours and out, like you spend 6 hours in the gym.
No,
Or like you do like a 3-hour workout in the morning and then 4 hours.
Addicted to
Like,
something, I'm thinking
talking about
like need to
addicted.
do it every day.
okay, I guess it depends on how long. Because like if you're spending 2 hours every day, then that's like really good. I guess I
Mhm.
was like, if you're doing it like all the time.
No, I don't think you could do it all the time. So, I mean, I was thinking
There's
more of
people
like
that do.
you.
Yeah, there's people,
There,
marathon
there is
runners.
there is people that
Marathon
do.
runners.
They probably don't have a bad back though. No, I'm just kidding. And so with reading, that's a good thing to like gain knowledge. But how would you apply that if you're addicted to it?
That's my only issue with reading. Like reading
Yeah.
is amazing, right?
Yeah.
But I know so many people that read books all day. They don't do shit.
Yeah,
with it.
no, that's definitely true. It was like it's just a fun answer like your guys's,
Yeah.
but it was and I think that it can take you away from the social aspect of things. And there's so many people that I know as well that read all the time, read everything. And yeah, it's
Don't
like
apply it.
they know a lot, but how are they
Don't
living
apply it.
life, and like how are they happy, and all, like there's so many questions that go along with it. And I guess obviously this is why you call it an addiction. Like there's a certain amount of the activity that is appropriate,
Okay.
and then when it goes too far, it's
Yeah.
like, what are you, like there was a guy that I remember, I forget what he had, maybe it was a photographic memory or like an extreme condition of it, but he used to flip through books and he would like know every single page, so he was able to learn like tens of languages, and he knew all the languages, but he was just reading and learning so much that it was like he's not traveling, he's not like meeting people from everywhere, and it's just like, all right, I mean that's great, but what did it do for you?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So as long as you're applying whatever you're doing. So for example, games, you're applying your quick reflexes. In working out, you're applying it to whatever your real life needs you for. And for books, you're applying the knowledge somewhere.
Well, nobody said drugs, so that's good.
Yeah, there you go. Bare minimum over here.
Wow. All right. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning into an episode of Strange Flavors. My name is Shimmer.
I'm Faraz.
My name is Amber.
And this is brought to you by Alif Theory, the strangest and greatest podcast in the game.
Mhm.
We're all here. We're all breathing, living. If you want to email us,
Alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah. If you want to email us or send us your music, like the artist we have today, or you want to send us your cousin's music, your uncle's music.
Remember we said strictly no cousins?
No cousins.
I
No
want
cousins.
to
Fine.
apply a strict no cousin. We know what
But uncles are fine.
uncles are fine. The cousin
Uncles.
plug is what I'm against. I know what a
Unless
cousin
your cousin
plug
is your
means.
friend.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, actually no.
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Well, no cousins allowed.
No cousins. But uncles, we want to hear that old traditional classic music. We love that. You can email that at strangeflavorspodcast@gmail.com. And if you guys enjoy this podcast, you can share it with them and share it with your whole family. Share it with your
Okay.
cousins. And if you don't know where we are, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere you listen to your podcast. Just be like, hey, Strange Flavors is here. Strange Flavors is there. And
Mhm.
if you want to see our beautiful faces and my beautiful background, it's on YouTube.
It's
Are
a
you
new
in Cali,
background
bro?
every week.
I'm in
Are
California.
you calling in from Cali right now?
I'm in California surfing the waves.
Weather looks
That's
beautiful, bro.
crazy.
Yeah, it's really hot right now, but trying to make do. But yeah, and if you want to follow us on social media, you can everywhere: Facebook, IG, Twitter. And if you want to support this podcast, like our wonderful executive producer, Bobber Bagel,
Bobber Bagel.
Wow.
you can
Thank
do
you so much.
Link in the description.
2-time supporter, Bobber
Two
Bagel.
times supporter.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Shout out.
Thank you for bringing in that amazing news from California, Shamir. We appreciate you going all the way there for this
course.
awesome news.
And reporting live.
Reporting live, as always. Guys, listen up. I've been kind of heavy thinking about what this podcast was going to be like the past few days. And honestly, I didn't want to do anything. I was like, man, with the situation going on in America right now, with the protests against the way that the police have been, the police brutality, and that comes with the murder of George Floyd. I'm calling it a murder because it was.
Right.
It's been really tough to sort of deal with reality, because every time you go on social media and everywhere you look, and literally if you go outside, it's just like people are extremely emotional. People are being affected by this, and it's insane that this is still happening in America to this day. So we don't want to keep your spirits down or anything, and we do want to do the show as normal, but we want to give sort of our perspective on things, and maybe we can talk it out, and maybe you'll be able to relate to some things or have a greater understanding or greater curiosity for the way that we're experiencing it. So I think starting it off, I mean, like, one of the main things that we continue to see is everybody is in support of George Floyd and his family, and the wrongful killing of innocent, unarmed Black men. But then the narrative sort of changes when we have all of this media sort of perverting that news of bringing the riots and the lootings and the conservatives and our president saying certain things that go against the entire movement.
The language being used.
Yeah. So I mean, like, right off the bat, let's just like talk about that aspect. And can you be for one thing, which is like the justice for George Floyd, and against the lootings, and not change the narrative and the message of what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I
Amber,
think that,
you shared that thing that Target shared about their store being looted.
I mean, let me start off with this. I think that the reason that this is a very important time, and honestly in history, is that we have a recording of the entire situation, start to finish. So there, even in the Ahmaud Arbery case, the ones that we talked about it in a few podcasts ago, there was just so much people, because it wasn't fully recorded, didn't have the this and that. People were trying to like tear it apart. In this situation, you saw really the whole situation kind of unfold, and it's hard to.
That's why I called it a murder too, because we are all witnesses to it.
Yeah,
it's hard to deny something that's fully right there, you know? And some people have chosen not to watch it, and I completely respect that choice. It is a hard video to watch, and you definitely don't have to, you know, partake in watching those things if you know where you stand and everything like that. And if it, you know, sends you into a wrong pathway, only do what you're comfortable in this time period. However, there is a lot of rhetoric on the internet that's kind of like, you know, I am feeling bad for George Floyd, but what are they doing with this looting and
But always that word,
right.
but.
It's always a but. And right there, Frost, you're pointing out a really good point, is that it's taking the focus off of what's important. It's taking it off of what's happening. And so when it comes to
real quick on that, like when all of my, so you guys know that I grew up in a very conservative area, so I've been around that type of energy my whole life. My Facebook friends who were saying anything about this issue only came into the picture when it was about the butt. They never said anything about George Floyd, and a lot of them still haven't. They haven't said anything about that. They only have a problem. They're only offended when it comes to the materialistic things and the physical things, and not, they never came in. They only brought up George Floyd when there was a butt attached to it, and never before it. And that's where it's just like so disheartening.
And the thing is, like, materialistic things can be replaced. Lives can't. And that's what's so sad about that.
I think that really proves the intention, though. It's what you speak up about that it matters to you. Whatever you're speaking up about is what matters to you. And if you're going to speak up about the rioting and the looting and not the actual situation that's at hand, proves honestly to anybody listening and watching what matters to you. And so I had a few questions from my personal friends, and we had this conversation in our circle, is that they were like, guys, I don't know how to feel. I do support the situation. I just don't know how to feel about the rioting and looting. And I did want to make this point very quickly. When we protest peacefully and when we post our posts on social media, to be quite frank, those are the things that the government wants, because essentially we're not bothering them when we're doing those things. Those are peaceful ways of going about. You're not disrupting the system in any way. The way that I have been looking at the rioting and the looting is in a way that when you are now doing this, these are public service attention that you're trying to get. When you're causing this disruption, you're making them dispatch these police officers. You're making them focus on something. It's not just in the background, oh, there's a talk in the air, oh, there's a few peaceful protesters over there. You're not bothering them with that. When it's a loud uproar, and might I add, in history, all of these types of situations is what has caused change. When it comes to slavery, women's rights movement, segregation, all historical moments have had these. And I'm not saying that it excuses it, but it's honestly proven that it works. And the only reason why is that the people that are the public servants, the where our money goes, we are telling them to focus on the issue. There's a systematic issue when it comes to the training of the cops, that there is when it comes to how they police in poverty-stricken neighborhoods, when it comes to how they profile people and the type of people that they're profiling, who that they're more likely to arrest. All those things are so deep-rooted in our system, and a time like this is taking a moment to go ahead and say, reflect on what is going wrong and what is it that we need to change in our system. And I think that this is
also
important.
that the everybody perceives things differently, and as Shamir mentioned, the whole it's a physical thing, these buildings and stuff, and the lives can't be replaced, but the buildings can. And there's people that like Target, like some people of certain shops like Bobby Hundreds and this Bengali owner of this restaurant, they were all like, you know what, it's fine that our buildings burn down, we support the protesters, right? Not everybody feels that way, and that's obviously understandable. Some people have put their entire lives into making a certain restaurant or family business, and to get destructed in this mess while they're probably supporting the protesters, that is a consequence of the system. It's not right. It's still illegal. Nobody is saying that these things are legal or let them go and do that. It's just like, you have to understand that at the end of the day, this is a fault of the people who are in charge. These people have tried the peaceful protest when it came to the kneeling and with Colin Kaepernick and everyone. You know, he literally got kicked out of the NFL and he called a son of a bitch. And, you know, like, how are you supposed to feel?
Peaceful way.
There was so many peaceful protests and
for 50 plus years, and like still we had.
And there's still they were shut down and they were retaliated against. And then now you see the result of people just being fed up. And again, I say that, you know, it's not like it's a justified thing, but you have to be understanding of these people's emotions, and they have nothing to lose at this point. There's people crying in the streets of, I'm willing to put my life on the line for my people, for their future, for my kids, for everybody growing up. Yeah. And as you said, this all serves as a distraction. Who are causing some of these riots? It's not all protesters. It's many people who have been identified as not members of any organizations that were leading peaceful protests. There's a lot of you know, white, young, reckless kids that are taking this opportunity to.
Who are also taking time to be a part of the looting and wrecking things, and it adds to the
they're smashing things.
There's a dude showing up with a bow. There's a dude showing up with a bow and arrow. There's a dude that showed up. That guy is so sword.
Dumb. I saw that video of the guy. What did you think was going to happen with a single bow and arrow that takes a hot minute to reload and stuff like that? Yeah. You deserve what's happening to you if you're going to show up and try to attack, like violently attack people. You could have prevented that on yourself, and then they're interviewing those people. That's the same situation of the Karen of Central Park, they call her, who was complaining and trying to call the police on that man who was bird watching and told her to obey the law and put her dog on the leash. And she knew exactly what she was doing. Right. She knew that by threatening to call the police, by having a literal like movie scene play out like the movie Get Out in front of him while screaming and saying, I can't hear you, I'm being attacked, and whatever else she's saying while choking her dog and almost killing it. These people know exactly what they're doing, and they want to cover up the problem with all these other distractions, including the people that are being set up to go and create. And by the way, this has been in history for the longest time. There are organizations that send out these people to create these distractions from the further problem. And also, there's, believe it or not, there's organizations like the ones that are protesting. There's organizations within that exist to make money off of protests on both sides. Like, I know that might be a shocker for people, but there's people that want racism to exist so that they continue to make money in the same way that, you know, cancer research and these prescription pill companies, they all make money. There's a lot of people making money off of racism on both sides. So you have to truly look at the situation on your own and do some reading, look at both sides and realize that this is not like a political thing. You don't have to make it a political thing no matter what somebody tells you.
And they make it a political thing when it's not them, because we've seen multiple times of them burning down their cities after a football game, after a hockey game. And and the city taxpayers, the people pay millions of dollars just to recover this, but they don't say anything when that happens, right? Like, I remember Philly, that went crazy when the Caps won in DC. Fire trucks were blown up, all this stuff. Like, things went crazy. No one said a word.
Yeah.
No one said a word. I mean, a few people did, but
that, like, Frosh, you made this point on your story the other day that, like, the music that we indulge in and the culture that we indulge in, so many of us want to take part in Black culture, but when it takes time to stick up for Black culture, they're nowhere to be seen. And I really do hope that if you are reaping from the benefits of Black culture and do partake in the entertainment that is provided by Black people and has rooted from the origin of Black people and Black culture, that you are standing up to make a difference.
The thing is, if you listen to music at all, it's from Black people. Jazz, rock, rap, everything. Black people have made a difference in changing that. Any movie you watch, Black people are in that. They have directed movies, they have acted in movies, etc. Any sports, all the best athletes in the world are Black. A lot of them are Black. International soccer, football, whatever, you name it. Black. Everything is Black. This is not this is a human issue. Like, these people are suffering, and we have to help them as humans like for the human race, you know?
It's fear. It's like, they're so scared of what's going to happen once they're able to. It's the same thing with immigrants and all of that. And like, we obviously have our own sort of stories when it comes to Muslims in America and South Asians in America, or any immigrants, people of color. They all have their own story. But at the bottom of the chain is Black people because of the color of their skin. A lot of us, like, people don't realize when they say, like, people that are constantly on Caitlyn Bennett, the gun girl, Tommy Loren, these people that want to say that white privilege is not a real thing. How is white privilege not a real thing when brown privilege is a thing? And I say this all the time, I feel far more privileged than a lot of white people that I grew up with. I know multiple languages. I grew up in different parts of the world. I know how to communicate. And imagine one of these things for brown people growing up in America. We're cool with the whites. We're cool with the Blacks. So many of us that we can make our way in and out of these groups without facing any sort of consequences. And it's easy for us and convenient for us to take things from Black culture and, use it in our style, our language, our forms of entertainment. But then when it comes to standing up for them or facing the same sort of reality that they have to face, oh wait, no, I'm with the doctors and the lawyers and engineers. Our community is better than this. And that becomes problematic right there when it's like, you don't realize your own privilege. So being white, like that goes across the board. It's in our culture too. It's light-skinned people. It's in Black culture. It's in every culture.
Colorism exists in almost every culture out there. Yeah.
And then when I see, I was watching YouTube a few days ago, and this has just started emerging, all of this talk. And I was watching a Nelk Boys video and then a Danny Duncan video. And for some reason, both of their thumbnails, they didn't know that this was coming, but it was like a prank on cops. The Nelk Boys were doing a prank on cops where they were pretending to drink and drive, and it was 0% alcohol. And the way that they were treated, right? This was not like an experiment or anything. This was just, they had made this video. But the cop went up and, he was like, hey, what are you drinking? Like, you can't be doing that. And they were messing with him like crazy. And then he eventually looked at the can and he's like, what is this? And then he started laughing with them. And he treated them so well, started joking around. And they said, like, why don't you have some? He's like, no, I'm on shift. And then the Danny Duncan video, these guys, they trespassed into a closed place that was, closed because of Corona or whatever. And it was this like Sky Zone type place with trampolines and stuff. The police had found them. They were in there. They're not supposed to be in there. And eventually they got the police to start doing flips with them. And that, like, I know what I'm watching is entertainment, but at the same time that this stuff is going on in America, it's literally like, it blows my mind. I'm like, whoa, this would never happen. And I can give a sort of instance of this example when I realized, like, growing up, I was always taught as well that, cops are good people. They help you out and stuff. And I would hear these things about Black people being mistreated. I didn't know that it was a real thing. And frankly, I didn't really believe it. I was like, they probably did something. I was on that side, right? I was like, they had to have done something for them to be treated this way, right? I had an experience in College Park, actually. I was picking up my sister, and I had some friends in the car with me. These two guys were in a Hummer, and they back up into me and hit my car while I'm in it. And I get out of the car. I like tap on their window. I'm like, hey, you just hit me. And they were like, what? No, we didn't. And there were these like, rednecky guys. They come out of the car, big dudes. They start looking at the car. I was like, look, there's a dent right here. And they start harassing everybody in the car. Well, go ahead and call the police. You guys probably have drugs in the car. We're like, no, we don't. And then eventually they didn't want to do anything. I wanted to handle it without the police. I call the police. They drive off. The police comes and they're like, yeah, we'll try to do something about it. They're like very casual about the whole thing. They asked me to explain. And then after like, I think 40 minutes or so, they were like, yeah, we can't do anything about it. They drove off, and I showed them the pictures of the license and everything. And then instead of getting to the bottom of the situation, he starts asking me, so where are you from? And I was like, what? And he's like, like, what country are you? I was like,
Irrelevant.
Pakistan. Does this matter? And he was like, oh yeah, they got like nukes over there, right? And I was like, my
Security
face like,
is asking this?
this is not security, this is police.
Oh my God.
We weren't even dealing with the security. This is police that showed up from PG County, and my face just kind of like washed. I was like, what's going on right now? And they didn't like threaten me. They didn't do anything to me. But I realized very quickly that because of the way that I look, these cops are not taking me seriously for whatever reason. And like,
Automatically assuming you
and
have
it's
some sort of
unexplainable.
fault.
Huh?
I said almost assuming that you must have some fault in it. And like,
Yeah, like I have video proof and photo evidence and everything, and still they were being this way towards me. Now I say this story because it's like, if that even happened to me, somebody who you guys hear me all the time, I'm not with like PC and I'm often criticizing liberal people and whatever, and I've grown up around, you know, this sort of conservative culture. So I get both sides most of the time. But when something happens to you in that way, you immediately understand that like, I get it. Like, there are police that are literally killing Black people because of the way that they look, because they just don't even take them seriously, don't like them, because of this little tiny thing that happened to me. And that was nothing. I'm just giving perspective as to like, yeah, like it does happen.
And I think that's important. Like, when I've had this conversation with other brown people who, you know, might use the N-word or might like try to say that their struggle is greater than the Black community. And I've always said, I'm not saying that you don't have issues. I'm saying that when it comes down to it, your life is not going to be threatened in the way that a Black person's life will be threatened. Like, I've been called, like everybody's, I'm not gonna say everybody, most brown people, like, oh yeah, like, Saddam Hussein is your uncle, like, oh, Bin Laden. Those are jokes and those are things, and sure, they hurt and whatever. But the reality is, my life was never threatened the way that a Black man or a Black woman or people of color who have those situations. If I was in situations I've been in some sketchy situations in college where I know I've gotten away with it because of the fact that I am not Black, and I was around majority Black people. So like, I knew that was almost, that was my privilege there. So, I mean,
and here's the thing, like, even if your life was threatened, even if there's people in our DMs saying, yo, what about, you know, Muslim countries who are suffering? What about the Muslims in China? What about the Muslims in Palestine, in Syria, and India? It's like, yes, this is the exact reason that we need to stand up for Black people in America right now, is because oppressed people are oppressed people, and you should help out whoever you can. And this relates to something that we're seeing in broad daylight right now. It's in front of us, and that doesn't mean that you disqualify any of the other causes. We just went through an entire month of Ramadan where I'm really proud of our Muslim communities that you know, I know, that raised so much money because they didn't spend it on iftars and Eid outfits this year. The donations were out of the roof this time of like helping other people. But now it's like, if we want people to care about our causes, then we have to care about,
be an ally.
We have to show up for our brothers and sisters who are suffering in front of us right now. And that doesn't mean that you care about one more than the other. It means that you care about, you know, the exact thing that you're donating towards for the sake of whatever you say it is, whether it be God or whatever. And the thing is,
or
like,
humankind.
You are, if you only care about your people, then you're the problem, because then you're asking other people to care about your people as well. And you're like, why is this oppression going on? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, if you care about people, then you care about Black people, period. And you would do something about it.
I think, just to kind of end this whole topic off, and obviously we can go on for this for a really long time, because this is a very, you know, prominent issue right now, and there is a lot to say about this topic. And this is just something small. I do appreciate being surrounded by individuals like Frost and Shamir and other like-minded individuals who are speaking out on social media and who are taking place and having these actual like being aware of our privilege and speaking out, because I have a lot of people in my life who aren't like that, and and I see the negatives of that, and I see how harmful that is. So I do appreciate you guys in my life, and I appreciate my other friends who are also being aware and speaking out, and just know that it means something, and I see it and I respect it.
Same here. I also want to say on that, like when you have expectations for other brown people that, you know, have been problematic their whole life, when you have expectations for other celebrities that, you know, like the Kardashians, whoever it might be, you know, when you're listening or consuming their content in the first place, or just being around them, what expectations did you have from the beginning? When you know somebody who has been doing good work from the beginning, like you're not surprised when they show up and they're doing things. So you don't have to like rely on anybody else to speak up for you. As long as you're doing the work, it all adds up and it all ends up benefiting. That's why, like, you know, we never had a discussion about like, hey guys, should we do this, release a message for Alif Theory or Ronald Pono or whatever. Because it's like, we're living this right now. I could care less about those things. Like they're just, that's what we do for fun. Like we're gonna, you know, continue to make content and everything. But like right now,
on a human
I'm speaking
level.
as me. I'm speaking as me, and you're speaking as you, and we're doing what we can. Like Shamir was, you know, out in the streets today protesting. He was really with the people. If you want to speak about that a little bit, like what that was like and how the media is sort of like just explaining what the riots were. What was that experience like? Did you see any?
I had to go and see like this for myself. I also wanted to support those that need the support. And I had the time and I had my, you know, physical body to be there. So I went, and honestly, I was kind of nervous. I was like, are there going to be riots? Are there going to be things that are being thrown? Is it going to be violent? I was ready to be tear gassed. I literally bought goggles. I bought N95 mask. I was prepared if that were to happen, because I needed to see what was going on these front lines myself. Now, thankfully, maybe I came at a very peaceful time. There was a bunch of people amazing showing support, and it was a very peaceful protest. And like everyone was super peaceful. However, I did see remnants of the night before. Gucci stores robbed, boards all the way up. Like a lot of windows were shattered. A lot of things were stolen and looted. But it wasn't as scary as they made it out to be on the news. And they kind of showed that like on the news that, oh, it's happening everywhere. It's not. There's in all these cities, there's peaceful protests happening all the time. I think in specific times there are riots happening, and maybe I just missed that. But
yeah. And we should know that better than anybody when it comes to like our countries as Muslims or South Asians, the way that we're seen in the news versus like what our, you know, personal experiences are. We know better than anybody, and we need to be above that. And I want to say last thing with this on my end is that all of this comes down to one word for me, and that's leadership. If you have the right leader that you trust, that everybody believes in, none of this is a problem from the beginning, whether it be the way that we dealt with the coronavirus or this situation that has been ongoing for far too long. I don't care if it's Obama, Biden, whoever, right? There's this Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand. Have you guys heard of her?
I have not.
No.
So she is the one that had to deal with that mass shooting with the Christchurch. And the way that she dealt with that was so empathetic. She was with the people immediately, with the Muslim community. She did not name the shooter. She did not publicize him. She condemned him. She spoke so monstrous of him and people like him, and said that the Muslim communities that are here, the Muslim people that are here, are New Zealanders. It doesn't matter how long they've been here, for a year or they grew up here for however long. She was with them, with the families, talking to them, crying with them. I'm not saying you have to cry with them, but you have to be there with them. You have to understand people's pain and why it's happening. And then she also, like, all within, I think, the last year, she dealt with a volcano that was extremely deadly. And she dealt with a coronavirus so well that everybody listened to her strict orders. And the coronavirus is almost completely wiped out now in New Zealand. This is because of leadership. People trust their leader because she listens to them. She is there for them. She is up front, right there where you can see them, and is is truly making efforts to change. And she also, by the way, right after that, the shooting, she passed a bill to ban semi-automatic weapons, and within the next week, I believe it was gone. They weren't allowed to have that anymore. So this is called action, right? Instead of saying that you loot, we shoot, and all of these other things that are only inciting more violence, that are only causing people more hurt and more distance from the people that are supposed to lead them, right? What do you expect to happen if it's not riots and destruction and all of that? These people don't feel that they are accounted for, that their lives matter clearly.
Just has not been done to them, so why should they act accordingly?
And they're asking each other for questions. And I'm not pretending to know the answers here. None of us are pretending to know the answers because we don't know. Because the people whose job it is supposed to know the answers to get to the bottom of it aren't doing their job. And so if we had
right orders, have not put in the right orders.
Yeah. So if we had the right leadership, and it sucks that like right now it's like between two people, and we've talked about this before, but don't look at Donald Trump and Joe Biden. If there's people within your communities, encourage them to go up and lead efforts, different organizations, and people who are on the polls right now, going down the ballot, whether it be running for positions like mayor or whatever else, make sure that you read up on them because they're the ones that can ultimately create real change and speak up for your communities. So there are leaders in different communities around the country that are doing a great job, and you see that with policemen and police chiefs standing in arms with the people that are protesting, and that's great to see. But at the end of the day, people don't know what to do, and you're supposed to fix the problem, not cause more destruction. So yeah, I mean, let us know your guys' thoughts on this, and we hope that everybody's doing well. But please,
going. We read all the comments on all of our social media. We definitely will be engaging in these conversations, and I'm looking forward to see your guys' perspective on this. So go ahead and engage in whatever comment section that you find.
Please just don't get distracted. I beg you not to get distracted in anything else. Remember what the root of the problem is, and remember that you are a part of history. And when your kids and your grandkids ask you, what was that time like? Make sure you were on the right side of history. That's what I would say. And I don't care that our podcast or anything like that puts on a certain agenda or whatever. And our whole brand, Alif Theory and everything has always been about, the people and helping people and making sure that our voices are not wasted. We don't care about money or anything like that. We care about people enjoying our content and being heard. So,
and if you're Black and you partake in our content, just know that we also see you and that we stand with you, and that we're hoping that history goes in the way that we hope.
Yes, and I'm sorry that went on for a bit long. Obviously, this is going to be an ongoing thing, and this is a real time we're living in. We don't want to come off inauthentic in any way. This is very real, and this was heavy on our hearts. So, I think we'll continue to talk about more topics in the future, but we have taken up a lot of time, so I'd like to introduce the guest at this time, and this is great because he is also experiencing in the real world what's going on. So without further ado, our stranger today is a Los Angeles-based rapper and producer who makes contemporary hip-hop that draws off his experience growing up as a first-generation American Muslim from an immigrant household. Everybody, please welcome Hasib.
Speeding down. What's poppin'?
Man, you look drained.
Are you okay?
Good? Yeah. No, honestly, I'm gonna be honest, man. I haven't really been sleeping much these past few days.
Because of what's been going on.
Yeah, I think it's a few things. I think after Ramadan, my sleep schedule was all messed up anyway. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then so I was trying to fix that, and then you know what I mean. Everything kind of hit the fan and went crazy, and I don't know, man. I go down rabbit holes when I'm in something. I start I don't know. I've been watching nothing but riot live streams for hours at night, and it's not even healthy to do so, but it's kind of unfortunately where I've been, you know what I mean, in my head.
Right. You get consumed in it, and just especially with the endless scrolling, you can watch news for a long time, but then eventually you start seeing the same videos and kind of the same thing. But with social media, it's a whole different game now. And once you start on Twitter or whatever, it's just like, it's hard to stop. Because, and especially like it gets kind of confusing, right? Like of you start to hearing so many different people with so many different opinions. You're in LA right now. You said you just got an alert on your phone. What's your perspective of what's kind of been going on, and what's LA like right now?
So, I haven't been at the protests, and I haven't been marching or on the front lines. You know what I mean? So I want to be like respectful of that and let people know that my perspective is one from home. And as much as I want to be out there, there's a couple family things going on. I have a really important weekend coming up next weekend on some family personal stuff, and my girl was like, "Do not go outside. We have an important weekend. Do not go outside." So I was like, "All right, let me do what I can from home." So that's like, I just want to kind of put that out there. But from what I'm observing from my Twitter feed or CNN or whatever, or from what friends are telling me, friends who are there, is, this is what it looks like to me, bro. And sis, you know what I mean? Like,
it's okay. I consider myself a boy, by the way.
All right, for sure.
You can't say that in this age, Amber. People actually take it literally.
I'm sorry. I consider myself one of the boys.
Okay. All right. I mean, hey, I don't discriminate on gender identity. You feel me? So whatever your preference is, I got you. But getting back to it, like what I'm noticing is it looks like people are peacefully assembling, right? I know at Pan Pacific Park off Fairfax and 3rd, one of my homegirls went yesterday, and that's the one I wanted to go to. Unfortunately, I did not. But what I noticed and what I've been told is that people are coming together peacefully. They're trying to protest. They're trying to march. Then they're having standoffs with the police, and the police will do something provocatory, like hit someone with the club, or spray somebody with mace, or shoot rubber bullets, or NYPD driving a car through a barricade. Whatever it is, there's dozens of clips you could find of police that are being provocative and instigating violence at these places, and then chaos starts to erupt. And then when chaos erupts, that's when the opportunists come out and start doing fuck shit, you know what I mean? And that's
what gets documented.
Right, and that's what CNN will have on loop, you know what I mean? CNN been showing the same footage of North Philadelphia being looted, the same 10-second clip over and over again, and they're like, this really takes away from the main cause. And it's like, bro, y'all are the ones who have it on loop.
Even for Los Angeles, I was watching the news yesterday while I was at work. There, like, the TV's on, and like for LA, they were playing just like the same burning car in one area. There's all the people are everywhere else, but they'll have it just on the burning car for like 10-15 minutes straight, and then keep on playing that same car back.
Even today, I went to like a protest today, and I was like kind of scared. I was like, is there going to be riots? Is there going to be stuff going on? It was really peaceful for the most part. Like everything I saw.
It's the media, it's the police, it's the looters. It's a whole lot of other shit going on that does take away from the message, unfortunately. And, not to be a conspiracy theorist, man, but like the dope thing about the internet nowadays is like, what people used to do, like low key and hidden behind the scenes, like it gets exposed because of cell phone cameras. Man, I'm seeing a lot of clips of people that don't look like protesters who are causing and stirring up riots and setting fires to buildings and throwing bricks through buildings that, in my opinion, bro, that they look like the establishment. They look like the state. You know what I mean? It looks like trained people who are trying to, cause this craziness because there's politics behind all of it, man. We're in an election year. You know what I mean? Obviously, like, whatever the outcome of this is going to be, man, I just hope it's something good. And, I think like we're all desi in this chat, right? Everyone is from desi. Yeah. I think this is like I just put this on my Instagram right now, like on my story, but I think like this is for us, this is a time where we could just like kind of, if we don't have like the knowledge or the education ourselves, like we can kind of, you know, try to learn more about the plight of African Americans in this country, and then like really educate our parents and our aunties and uncles, and like, you know, the people that don't get it, or who may not get it because they come from a different place and their experience is different, you know what I mean? And I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
It's
I wanted to ask you, like, you know, I do want to talk about you today as well, but one of the things that your music provides is that sort of socially conscious topic and experiences that you've had growing, the problems that you see with society and culture and things like that, and the way that you and your people, being, you know, desi people, are perceived. So when you see something like this, you know, does that relate to your experience of, you know, what you've seen, whether it be growing up in the U.S., how Muslims have been perceived or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, I grew up out here in Southern California in the desi household, but I grew up on Black culture.
So you always lived in California your whole life?
Yeah, I was born in New York, but I didn't really stay out there long at all.
I feel like when I'd hear your music, you had like it seemed like a New York accent.
Yeah.
Or especially my earlier stuff, yeah, because I grew up on New York hip hop, like Mobb Deep and Nas, and like that was the kind of hip hop I was listening to, you know. So
and that formed like your literal voice.
Yeah, I would say like I don't know, man. There's certain things like I say that are LA accent ish, you know what I mean, or the way it is. If I say like, hey yo, like get over here, like the way I say here, like New Yorkers don't say here.
That was Scorpion from Mortal Kombat.
Get over here. That's great.
That's a Mortal Kombat accent.
Right.
Mortal Kombat.
Right. I don't know, man. I've had like just a lot of different influence in terms of like, you know, my homies out here growing up, or listening to New York hip hop, or one of my OGs who like took me on tour very early was from Detroit. So like I picked up some Detroit slang around the way or whatever, you know what I mean?
Got it.
And I'm kind of like, I think being a desi kid out here is like, we absorb a bunch of different shit, right? And when we were young, there was no Hassan Minaj on TV, you know what I mean? Or we didn't have any examples of ourselves like in media, or we didn't have anyone to look to and be like, oh yeah, like that person's cool. Like I want to emulate that person. So, you know, like we take our influence from wherever we took it from. And for me, like, you know, I have to like give that credit to, you know, Black culture in America through hip hop music and movies and media. And then just like even my friends, like, you know, and in regards to my music, going back to like the music side of it.
Yeah, growing up in California, like that experience.
My music touches on the things that I've kind of experienced, and like, you know, I'm not going to front like I didn't grow up in the projects, you feel me? So like my story is not the story of the projects, right? But facing certain things like, you know, being pulled over by the narcs, and like me and my homies being, you know, guns drawn on us and stuff like that, or being at a party in the hood and people getting shot, like that kind of stuff is peppered in my music, along with stuff like the masala in my mom's spice cabinet. Like that's important to me, you know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? Like certain Islamic references and whatnot.
9/11, I've heard that a few times of that, you know, the way that brown people were treated in America after that.
Absolutely, you know, and just being brown in America, being Muslim in America, like we've experienced prejudice and forms of racism. I just think the biggest difference between what we've experienced and what Black people experience is the systemic part of it. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I guess you get that in my music. And for me, it's always been challenging to make music like that, because it's like, I have to, I don't know. I want to like, I never want to come across as like the preachy rapper or like the conscious rapper or whatever, right? But like I do consider my music to be more thought provoking rather than like more turn up or party music. And you know, that's just my style that's the kind of shit that I grew up on. You know, Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Black Thought, The Roots, Lupe Fiasco, Nas. You know, like the artists who I grew up on were storytellers, and they were, you know, being a little more socially conscious and just delivering a message. So that's all I try to do.
When did you start rapping?
3rd grade.
How? Just like because you wanted to, or?
Well, I always listened to hip hop as far as I can remember. I have an older brother, and he used to make tapes. You know, the radio station in the Inland Empire in Southern California. It was called 99.1 KGGI, and every night at 9 o'clock they play the Fat Five at 9, and it'd be like 5 new songs on the radio. And my brother, he would, you know, he had like a boom box that had like a tape deck in it, so he would throw in a blank tape, and if it was like a dope song that would come on, he would hit record and play at the same time. Bloop, bloop, and it would record what was on the radio onto the tape. So he didn't even know what he was doing, but he was making mixtapes. You know what I mean? And essentially, like, that was like my first kind of like introduction to it. And then one of my older cousins, who, you know, he's probably like 40 now or something like that, but you know, he was always banging hip hop in his car, and you know, he had a big ass system in his car and like rims on his car and shit like that. So I always just taken in this influence, and then once again, like, absorbing Black culture through TV and music and media. And then in 3rd grade, what had happened was we had to read a poem out of the literature book. It was language arts is what they called it in the elementary school out here. And we had to read a poem out of the English book in front of the class. And the one I picked was, it was like written as a rap, and it was called Nathaniel Be Free. And so I read that poem in front of the class, and it was kind of like a rap. And then like the class like clapped or whatever, you know what I mean? I was like, oh snap. They're like, oh, yo, you sounded good. Like, that sounded good. And I'm like, shit, I can write my own shit. So I started writing my own shit. And then, you know, very early on, like, I don't know, man, almost as far back as I can remember, like I've always just done it, you know?
Well, when was it that, like you said, we never had the Hasib Minaj's, and I mean, the brown rappers just started, like, you know, forming now or becoming a little bit more popularized. But how did you find your voice instead of imitating, you know, the Black rappers that you had heard in New York or wherever it be, adding that sort of South Asian experience in it or Muslim experience in it?
I think for me, it was about like getting comfortable with my own identity. You know what I mean? Because like,
what did that take?
Honestly, man, it's really hard to say. Like, when I look back, there was a point in my life where I was like embarrassed of being desi, man. You know what I mean? And even now to this day, like, it's not something I'm not like, yo, I am the desi rapper. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how I get down. Like, I'd rather like give you that in like naturally in bits and pieces, but like, and I think another thing, like, my family, we're kind of, I'm not gonna say we're unique, because I think this might be, as many people might go through this, but like, I didn't have like one thing I identified with early on. Like, you know, some people are like, yo, I'm Punjabi, or I'm Kashmiri, or you know,
that's literally us.
You see
that Amber's Kashmiri, I'm Punjabi.
Boom, there you go, right?
But
So,
I understand what you mean about not knowing how to identify with that, because even Kashmiri came as an identity for me later in life.
right.
Yeah, and
So,
I'm from
like,
Karachi, and I don't have that. I have that similar experience as you.
right. So, like, for example, my parents were born in a country called Burma. You see what I'm saying? And Burma is next to Bangladesh and Thailand and Vietnam and Rangoon. But our ancestors are from Gujarat, India. So technically, ethnically, we're Gujarati, right? But the Burmese government nationalized and started kicking Muslims out and killing Muslims and doing all kind of crazy shit. So then, you know, they went to Dhaka, Bangladesh. And then from Bangladesh, my dad ended up in Karachi. And so my dad is like a, you know, a K-Town dude, you know what I mean? He's a Karachi representative, like, to the core, you know what I'm saying? And my mom went back to Gujarat, India. So it's like, okay, are we Pakistani? Are we Indian? We're definitely not Bengali, even though we were in Dhaka for a couple years. Are we Burmese? Because y'all were born in Burma. Like, what is it? I don't know. It's geopolitics. And I think that caused a lot of confusion. So when people ask, I say, like, yo, I'm Desi, I'm South Asian, but like, I don't like ride with any one flag or anything like that, because it's just mad confusing to me.
Yeah. So you only recently, you said you've been rapping since 3rd grade, but this project Growth, I think that's when all of us actually found your music through mutual friends and everything. So what was it that made Growth that first sort of album that you wanted to be like, all right, this is my first, it was your first album, right?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
It was my first album that broke through the noise and like that actually like did something. Everything else was just very like local and you know, it wasn't it was being, all my previous projects were I don't want to say they were slept on, because honestly, like, I'm gonna be 100, like, maybe they just weren't as good, you know?
Okay. I don't know, like, because some people say like mixtapes versus album, and I don't know how, like, since you brand yourself, I'm looking at your stuff right now, but it's it seemed like growth was that first sort of thing that you were like, all right, this is like official. I don't know.
Yeah, nah, see, like, all right, before I even was going by Hasib, I was going by another name. I was going by Futuristic, and I was like putting shit out as Futuristic, and I had an album called,
that's a rapper, right?
Yeah.
Futuristic.
Yeah, he's from Arizona. Like, so I was Futuristic at the same time this other dude was, and like he started kind of buzzing faster than I did. And, you know, so I was like, oh, I gotta change my name. You know?
I mean, there's like 50 babies in the rap game right now, so I think it would have been fun.
But it was also symbolic of me, like, finding myself and you know what I mean, kind of doing the thing that that made me be me. You know
what is
I mean?
Hasib the Few? That's your Instagram name, and that's your website as well.
Right. So it goes back to Futuristic. So the homies would just call me Few for short.
Oh wow.
Right. Dang. And then in 2013,
I thought you were saying like there's not many of you. That's what I got of it.
Well, so it's, you know, it's kind of like you can make of it what you want. Like for me, what, like, that was like the official thing that it became the Few, because the Few was like short for Futuristic. But, you know, if you look more like metaphorical or whatever, you know, my brand of music and my style of music is not like for the masses. Like, I don't make pop music. And I've never made music like with the intention to like be the most famous rapper or anything like that. Like, I'm from the underground, you know what I mean? And my music is for a niche audience. And, you know, like, I kind of take pride in that. So when I think of like the people that listen to my music, like, that's the Few, you know what I mean? Like, we are the Few, you know, but yeah, that's where that came from.
You mentioned that you had like other projects and songs. Like, how many projects did you have?
Oh man, let me start counting. Flow Sessions Volume 1, Volume 2, 2.5, Stairways to EP, Professor X Tape, Fly Trap.
Because on Apple Music, when I go, I see Growth and a song before Growth.
No, I got 9 projects. Yeah, because a lot of stuff I took down because I wasn't necessarily even proud of it, and then a lot of stuff. The first 1, 2, 3, 4 mixtapes and EP. The first 5 projects were in the era of CDs. And, you know, they weren't even really like on digital like that. Like, I used to have a Bandcamp back in the day. And I think like there's still people that, like, a few people that have those songs, mostly like close friends and family, you know what I mean? But that's not even music that I would like really want people to hear at this point.
Yeah. So you've been in this like forever, technically. Yeah. So like, what keeps you like going up until this point and like reaching this buzz?
Yeah, I think one of the things is like, this is like, it's who I am. It's not like what I do. I think a lot of people try to rap, and that's all good. Like, you know, I think if you have a calling, you should go for it and try it. Or if you even just want to fuck around and do it just for fun, like, do it, right? But for me, like, there was never a moment where I was like, you know what, like, I want to try to rap, or like, I want to rap. Like, nah, I always just did. So for me, it's like a natural thing to do. And, you know, in terms of like pursuing it at the level that I try to pursue it as, I get a lot of energy from when, you know, like, when, for example, Growth, going back to Growth, right? Like, before I put that album out, I told my engineer, I was like, bro, if this album doesn't reach people, man, I don't know how much longer I could do this shit. Right. Meaning how much longer I could pursue it at this capacity. You know what I mean?
Because on one of your posts, you said that would be the determining factor if you would even go forth in music.
Yeah.
Why was that so important to you for that specific album to reach a new level? And
mental health, you know, after a while, you know, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something, you put time and money and effort into something. And, you know, you just want people to hear it, man. That's really what it is. You want people to hear it. And, you know, for me, like I said, it's never been about being famous or anything like that. But like, I do want people to hear what I have to say. And I'm gonna be honest, like, you know, every rapper has an ego in some shape or form, but like, I really think I'm nice though. Like, I think like I got bars and I think my music, like, I think as an MC, like, you know, I can go bar for bar with a lot of people, and the way I write patterns and write lyrics, like I'm very confident. And a lot of my heroes have like given me that cosign. A lot of my people who I grew up listening to, you know, have shaken my hand when I got off stage, when I opened for them, and been like, yo, you killed that shit, you know, good shit. So like when you hear people say that, you know, it kind of keeps me going, you know what I mean? It's like, nah, like I know I could do this because Earl Sweatshirt just told me my shit is fire. Like, damn, I got to keep going. You know what I mean? Or, you know,
did that actually happen?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Now, I don't want to even name drop, but like that's happened multiple times. I feel dumb for even saying that, but
no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You shouldn't say I think before any of this stuff, because you do have bars. No, seriously, like you do have bars, and you should feel like you are incredible, because there's a lot of people that do this, and you kind of hear the same style, you hear the same sort of message or lack of message. And I told you this before, but like your music, when I heard Growth, I had no idea who you were, but I resonated with it so much, the same way that I resonated with Eminem, who when I first heard, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know his story. I don't relate to his story, but the way that he told his story was so impactful in the same way that you told it, that I think that anybody can pick up their headphones, listen to it, and then go back to that time that they first heard it and be like, man, I remember what was happening when I heard this thing.
Right.
So you should like, please pat yourself on the back. Like, you are dope.
Especially when you say that the album success and all that having to do with mental health. Right when you dropped that album, I was dealing with a lot of mental health issues myself. And I remember that album being like my staple for that time period. I used to listen to that through and through, and I resonated with a lot of it. It genuinely got me through a very hard time. So I appreciate that.
Man, that means a lot to me, yo. And you know, to hear that, that's why I think, like, that's why a lot of people, I guess, ask me if Growth is my first album. It's not, but it is my first album that I think really reached people and had the ability to touch people in terms of like the quality of the music, the delivery of the music, the format, the presentation of it, just what it was and what it is. I think like I could look back at my music career, and Growth is like the thing that I'll be like, yo, that's a moment that I was very proud of. And now I'm in a place where I'm like, all right, I got to create that again. And you know what I mean? Create like, what's the next thing? So that's what I've been working on, trying to like make something that's as meaningful and that reaches people in the same way and that is as impactful. So
yeah,
it seems like you take these like darker sides of your life and more like downing moments and really channel that into your music. Has that always been your coping mechanism? Yeah,
for sure. I think, all right, so everyone's intention with music is not the same. People listen to music for different things. And for me, like one of the main things growing up, I would listen to the styles of hip hop, and the type of songs that hit me the most are ones where I could put my headphones on like late at night and just kind of like close my eyes and vibe out and get to a certain place, and like thought-provoking stuff, right? And you know, so for me, that's the kind of music I try to make. And so those are the places I try to go, and I try to think about, you know, things that make me emotional or make me sad, make me happy, make me smile, cry, all those kind of things. Like, and, you know, I don't know, it's interesting because like popular rap is very braggadocious. And that's really not my personality to begin with.
Sorry. Braggadocious.
But like on that process.
Like Adele's, oh, sorry.
No, well, I was just gonna say on that same process, like it was cool to see how your when you put out that song dealing with the times of quarantine and the coronavirus, how you had your own perspective on that. So talk about that perspective. Like, what did you realize? What did you learn during that time of just being isolated with your family?
Yeah, I think so.
And putting your dad on the cover too.
Oh, word. Yeah. Yeah, I think like the song's called At Home, available Spotify, Apple Music, all that, shameless plug. That joint was like me trying to get out of a creative rut first and foremost, where I was like, I thought quarantine was going to be like, yo, I'm about to make an album. Like, this is crazy. This is going to be like, but I've caught myself not being creatively inspired and more so just like stuck, you know, and feeling like lethargic and just kind of like blah, you know? I think watching too much of the news and scrolling too much, right? So that song At Home was trying to get out of that. And then so it made me think about like the way it's affected me personally. And alhamdulillah, man, like, you know, everyone in my family is safe for the most part. You know, a couple of distant relatives have got COVID, and, you know, my brother, he's a physician out in New York, and, you know, he's on the front lines. He's actually a lung doctor. So like he's frontline.
How are they all doing now?
They're doing good, man. They're hanging in there. New York is looking a lot better. But also, like, you know, my girl and I were supposed to get engaged back in March, you know, and
you were one of those.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, literally, like, you know, we had our bags packed, and like, you know, it was March 13th, I think, was the day I think 12th was the day we were flying out. And that was like the day that like Trump declared national emergency. And my brother called me from New York. I was like, yo, you should cancel the flight, B. And I was like, all right. And so, you know, I'm mad emotional. My girl was mad emotional. We're just trying to figure it out. My dad's calling her dad, trying to like, yo, I promise, like, it's because of COVID and not because we don't want to go through with this. You know what I mean? And it was just like a little thing. So I tapped into that for the first verse quite a bit. And then in the second verse, I tapped into more so like what my brothers told me, what New York is like, you know, and just, you know, my little brother, my younger brother, he's actually a student at, also in medical school, man. Shout out to all the desi doctors out there doing their thing, upholding the stereotype, saving lives. You know, but he was a student at Elmhurst, and Elmhurst was the hospital where like they were bringing up refrigerator trucks to like put dead bodies in and stuff like that. It was really bad over there. So I was just trying to tap into you know, the information that they're giving me and just relay that.
So you talked about, you know, meeting some sort of some, I guess, famous people along the way when you're opening up for them or whatever. How do you, for artists that are coming up or want to know the process, what does it take to be on tour and all of that? Because you've gone to Europe and toured around the US. And so how do you get to do that?
That would require like a manual or a book.
For sure.
It's definitely, it was a long process, right? So I guess it started in like 2009 when I started performing locally in the hip hop scene out here in LA and in the Inland Empire.
Were you signed?
No, never. I've never been signed. It's always been independent. So I started playing shows like locally and just, you know, doing a lot of like, started with like open mics in my early teenage years. And then it like got more to like, you know, local hip hop shows with a bunch of local hip hop, pretty much like a promoter would do a little contract with like a small bar and grill that has a stage and a mic. And then that promoter would put together, you know, 10 rappers and singers and whoever and beat makers. And they would hop on stage throughout night and they would all bring 5 or 10 of their friends. And you would have, you know, a crowd of 30 people or whatever, or whatever it was. And then you just perform. And, you know, that was how it like really started. And that was kind of how I started connecting with like the local hip hop scene for a minute. And, you know, really just like building up my live performance skills and whatnot. And, you know, at one point, so one of my heroes is underground MC, like a legend from Michigan named One Below. He was in a group called Binary Star, and Binary Star is like late 90s, early 2000s underground hip hop like royalty. And, you know, you wouldn't know of him unless you know of him, right?
Is it Desi guy?
No. This is an African-American brother from Michigan.
Oh, okay.
And I opened up for him a couple times, and he was like one of my favorite artists, and he's Muslim, you know what I mean? And so we just like, you know, one day he was in town on tour and I was like, yo, like, you want to play basketball? Because I used to play basketball in high school and all my boys, we like hooped. And he was like, man, you want to play basketball? I was like, come on, let's go. And so he was like, shit, I'm trying to hoop. Let's go. So we went and we hooped. And after we played, like, he was like, hey, man, you really hoop. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm trying to tell you, like, we play, you know what I mean? And he was like, yeah, man, but I'm from Michigan, bro. Like, Indian kids don't be hooping. I'm like, yeah, bro, this California is different. So in any case, we kind of formed a friendship, and he took me on tour for the first time when I was like 19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he showed me the ropes on like just like the basics of like touring in the underground scene, right? So, you know, where y'all from? Where, like, what city are you guys in?
We're in different parts of Maryland.
Maryland, yeah.
So around
Okay.
like
From Baltimore, which is, yeah.
Okay, so like, I've never played a show in Washington D.C., right? But
Yeah.
if I wanted to play a show in D.C., which Spotify tells me I have listeners in D.C., or if I wanted to play a show, you know, I don't know. I don't know if I have listeners in Baltimore or where, but like DC is probably the closest city to y'all that my data tells me I have listeners in. And also just based on my Instagram that people hit me up and they're like, yo, come to DC or whatever. So if I wanted to play a show in DC, I would look at like small venues. I think it's like the Blueberry Cafe or something like that. You know, there's venues in DC, and I'd be like, yo, let's set something up, and I'd holler at y'all, and we put together a show, and we would create a flyer, and we would do all the things, right? So there's a really independent DIY way of doing it. You know what I mean? And it takes a lot of work and a lot of coordination, and planning a tour and booking a tour as an independent artist is definitely tough. And then, you know, thankfully, like the Euro tours, like there was a booking agent involved, and I got to a point where, you know, I was able to, you know, wash my hands of that and, you know, not have to worry about connecting all the dots, and more so just, you know, pulling up to the venue for sound check and playing the show. So
how did the non-Desi people react to your music?
Oh man, you know, they don't even know that I'm desi.
You think you're mixed or Latino or something?
I've heard everything, bro. I've heard Latino, I've heard mixed, I've heard Puerto Rican, Dominican, I've heard Egyptian, you know, I've heard desi, of course. You know, if you're desi, you know what I mean?
Hasib.
Like, yeah. Hasib's also an Arabic name, so there's people who thought I was Arabic, but like, you know, if it's like when desi people see me, they're like, oh yeah, of course he's desi, right? but like, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about like your shows and stuff. One, is there a lot of Desi people going to your shows?
Depends on the city.
Okay.
You go to Toronto and it's all Desi people. Okay. But you know, in LA, there's only like a few Desi people.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? It's mostly Hispanic people, a few Black people. You know.
Also, as a fan of like performance art, I want to ask, like, how important is it to like differentiate your performance from your song? Like, you can't just stand up there and just rap your song. Like, what are some things you do while you're performing and stuff like that to elevate your song?
First thing is I don't rap over my lyrics. You know, I rap over instrumentals, and sometimes I'll like layer the hooks so that like I could take a breath during the hook and just sing along with the hook or whatever. But you know, if I'm rapping and I stop rapping, like all you'll hear is beat. So I'm not just like up there dancing in my own music. That's one. And then two, like I play with the DJ. His name's DJ Ice, the Frozen one. So he's really dope. He's an incredible DJ. And, you know, our chemistry on stage is pretty amazing. And, you know, I don't know. I just try to, I try to be as captivating as possible. And I try to be myself. So the way I talk to the crowd and the way I present myself is like, it's natural. And I think that makes me really comfortable on stage. And I think when I'm comfortable on stage, like the crowd is comfortable, and then it becomes an experience. My shows are
sorry.
No, go ahead.
So during your 2019 tour, where you went across Europe and stuff, I can only imagine that you had a lot of like highs and lows. Can you take a moment and kind of share what your highlight was and maybe what a low point was that other people maybe didn't see?
2019 Sylvan LeCue tour in Europe. Apologies in advance. Yeah.
Or tours in general.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tours in general. Tours in general makes it a little easier.
What's your highlight and your low point?
I would say, okay, I've had a few highlights. Let me try to narrow them down to a couple iconic moments. The first tour I was ever on in 2009, our car flipped. We got into a car accident in Detroit, and you know, we almost died. And that was
this is a high point?
This is a low point.
Oh.
Okay. But I mean, I like that you took highlight as highlight and not high point.
Highlight. Yeah. That was like just a crazy moment. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that was necessarily a low point either, but it was like a moment where like, damn, bro, we almost died. you know, my mom, like the insurance company called my mom because I was still on their insurance at the time and whatnot. And they're like, yo, what the fuck, you got into an accident, blah, blah, blah. It was just like grateful to be alive. And then, you know, the first time I played a show internationally was Cairo, Egypt. That blew my mind, yo.
Wow.
That was crazy. And then more recently, that's like back in the day. More recently, in 2018, I was on tour with Coda the Friend in Europe, and I played in Paris. And bro, Paris was dope. Like Paris is probably my favorite city to perform in. And
how do you relate to people?
You said what?
Well, I was gonna say, how do you relate to people that you know, speak different languages and stuff through hip hop?
Hip hop is universal, man. I don't know what it is. It's hip hop at its core is like a feel. You know what I mean? And you could like, I don't know. I've heard like international hip hop where like a song will come on. I'm just like, ugh, I don't know what he's saying, but this shit is nasty. You know what I mean? Like
the Japanese stuff.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And you can just hear like, yo, this dude is spitting or this girl is spitting, whatever it is. And it's just like, if it's dope, it's dope, you know? And I'll say this, I'll say in other places in the world, I think people are English, hip hop and English, especially American English is hip hop in its natural form. You know what I mean? And music, I think is, you know, people who are music heads, they just, that when they hear it, they know it's dope. Even if they can't perfectly translate what every rhyme means, they know I'm going off, and they'll hear, like, they'll be able to put the pieces together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, you know, you doing your own thing, being independent, how much do you look at your sort of strategy of how you're going to get out there, whether it be your music, your brand in general? Do you look at the industry as an example? Do you look at somebody like Russ and see what he's doing? What are some of your influences, and what direction do you want to go when it comes to marketing and getting yourself out there?
Yeah, that's a, you know, that's $1 million question. And that's a question that I think, you know, the best way to answer that is to, one, know that it's always and constantly evolving, right? So like what worked for me in 2018 when I put out Growth won't work for me now because the algorithms are different.
Are you on TikTok?
You know what? I've tried TikTok, but I haven't really figured it out yet. And one of the things that's tough for me about TikTok is like, you kind of got to be a little goofy to like really, you know, get into it. And it's not really my personality naturally. I'm more of like a, yo, this shit is serious, B. You know what I mean?
There's a niche for that on TikTok.
maybe I gotta find the right niche or just spend more time like working on TikTok. But nah, I think, you know, Instagram for me as a platform is what grew the most during the time of Growth. And I think like it's kind of like settled back down. I think a lot of influencers in general have seen like, oh man, I'm getting less likes on my shit now or whatever, right? Just because, I don't know, there's a lot more noise. And so that's what I'm currently working on now is like, I have a new project, I have new songs. What am I going to do to break through the noise? And, you know, I can't reveal all my secrets. Otherwise they're no longer, you know, I lose competitive advantage. You know what I mean? I'll never forget one of the homies, right? We kind of came up in the local scene together, really dope MC. And, you know, he was like, early on, he was starting to get like a lot of really big blog posts on like Two Dope Boys, and OK Player, and you know what I mean? Like just like big websites, especially during the blog era. And I asked him, I was like, bro, how are you getting this? He's like, hey man, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, God is great. I'm like, all right. I was like, yeah, all the time, you know? But, and in the same way, people hit me up all the time. Yo, like, yo, how do you get Spotify listeners? How do you go on tour? How you do this? How you do that? I'm like, yo, man, alhamdulillah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't give you this.
I see you're on TikTok here with Pokemon cards. You're shaving your head.
Oh, yeah.
You are goofy.
I try, man. But what I'm saying is like, there's moments.
Yeah.
There's moments where it's like, all right, cool, I'm in that mood and I could do it. But in general, that's like that. Like my older brother, that man he's way better on social media than me. He don't even rap. He's a doctor, but he's like, his personality is more just like, look, you know, look at this crazy shit or whatever. And you know, like he's comfortable doing that. Me, it takes me like, I got to be in a certain kind of mindset and energy. And that's why my music sounds the way it does, because my personality, my frame of mind is a certain thing. And like, obviously you can't just be one thing. You got to be more whole, you know, more rounded. And that's why I try, but my TikTok hasn't really popped off like that though.
You gotta throw some of your music videos on there.
That's a good point. I need to. I just got to get active and you know, do some stuff on there. But yeah.
Well, would you do, like, when it comes to the marketing stuff, would you ever do anything for like through the creative side? Like, I've heard Gary Vee, for example, tell people that you need to put out a song every day, or you know, you need to be just putting stuff out there until somebody bites on or something. Does that feel authentic to you or doable to you at all?
I think I think it depends, man. I don't think Gary Vee's like wrong per se, but you know, if you keep putting up a song every day and it's not working, then that's the wrong strategy for you. You know what I mean? If you put up a song every week and it's not working for you, then that's the wrong strategy. If you're doing it and it's working, then keep doing it, right? Mm. So for me, like, I know I have to increase like output in the way that the platforms are set up is like, you know, the algorithms reward activity for the most part. But there's also like, there's a sweet science to digital marketing. And it's like, you know, if you post too much on Instagram, you're diluting yourself. If you're putting up too many songs on Spotify, like, then are they like, I don't know, like what makes them special?
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like one of the other, like, take someone like Anik, for example, right?
I was just going to say that's the episode where Gary was telling him, and, you know, he had a really hard time trying to explain to him, like, that's not how I make my music.
Right.
And you seem in that similar sort of lane of like that. If something's timeless, if something has taken this long to make it, you know, I don't know what your process is, but.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, you know, like, bro, I got songs that I think are like fire and good to go and ready to go. And they've been done for almost 2 years, bro. Mm. But the right situation hasn't come up to where I could just put it out willy-nilly. Like, I have to make sure that, you know what I mean, I have support on different fronts, and that, you know, being an independent artist, I think there's an idea that like being independent means that you can just do whatever and put up whatever whenever, and that you're not signed. But like, nah, if you're doing it right, you're creating partnerships and you're collaborating with people behind the scenes in order to help you, because unless you get to a certain point where your audience is big enough that whatever you throw up is just going to be consumed by a mass of people, which, you know, someone like Russ, who you alluded to, Russ is big enough now to where it don't matter what he does, like, or what strategy he employs, like, he has a big audience, you feel me? And they're going to respond to what he puts up. Same thing with one of the homies, Coda the Friend. That's what he did. He was releasing music video after music video, and like a simplified music video with a certain aesthetic with the lyrics on the bottom. And he would just blankly stare at the camera and rap his verse. And it almost looked like a picture. And it was just like, it worked. It worked for him, and he kept doing it and kept doing it. And now he's big enough to where, you know, he doesn't have to think as hard about the marketing campaign, because he could put up an album and 2 million people are going to go listen to it on Spotify because he's built the platform already.
Yeah.
So
how do you differentiate the, you know, you mentioned the collaborations and making connections, and that seems how your tour even started. How do you differentiate the people that are really rooting for you from the sort of fake love? And if you've dealt with that, you know, how do you differentiate that?
Yeah, I think like in this content driven world that we're in, and clout driven world, it's like, look, everybody's after some form of it, right? It's all like, otherwise you wouldn't do it. Not everyone's intention isn't pure. That's a given, right? And just general business and whatever. Like, you know, if you're employed, you go to work. Even people who work for nonprofit organizations get paid. You know what I mean? So people always have their own personal agenda. And, you know, I know that going into it, but I think it's just about aligning with like-minded individuals or people who have the same general principles. Even if you have different independent goals than other people, if you stand on a similar like moral compass, or if you're in the same similar moral direction, then you can make shit happen, and you could work with people and do things, and, you know, but it's all about like natural relationships. And I'm gonna be honest, man, like me, bro, I've been a lone wolf for a long time. You know what I mean? I'm the kind of dude, I don't roll with the big crew. Like my best friends who I grew up with, oh damn, I got another public safety alert. So my recording stopped. I don't know when, but it did. Yeah, it recorded 45 minutes worth. Yeah.
Okay, we're on 45. That's fine. Just start recording again. It'll be okay.
That's how you know shit's real. There's helicopters out here. I'm getting public safety alerts.
I can hear it. That's crazy.
Yeah, just kind of syncing up with like-minded individuals and people who have similar, at least like moral standing, so that you're, you know, you guys are on the same page. And then I think one of the hardest things is like I was saying, like I'm kind of like a lone wolf. Like I don't have like a big group of friends who I like roll around with. Like my best friends are married with kids and work corporate jobs, and you know what I mean, like do completely
how do
different
they look
shit
at you?
that
Do they
support,
are they supportive of everything? Are they like, when are you gonna get it, you know, get the whole wife and kids and house
all of
whatever
that
going, all that they do?
All of that. It's all of that. It's like, you know, early on, like they were like going with me on tour. They were like going to a lot of shows, and then we kind of grew in different directions, right? And then so at first I had like a resentment, like, oh, they don't come to shows no more, like, you know, they forgot about blah 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 blah. But then as my mind matured more, I was like, bro, like they're on some whole different shit. Like they're not worried about, like they're not even on Instagram, you know what I mean? Like they're not worried about this stuff. They're like, they have a whole different set of issues and a whole different set of like what they're on. So like I have to respect that, and then likewise they respect what I'm doing. And you know, like for example, the Euro tours, like when they see like flyers like that, or God damn, I'm sorry, man, I keep getting
alerts keep coming in. No worries.
Yeah, they keep coming in. That's the third one. But yeah, when they see me do stuff, like, you know, when they see a music video go up or a tour flyer go up, or they hear about it, like they'll give me a call and be like, yo man, like, you know, keep killing it and keep doing your thing. And
what was your like parents' response to your career choice and career path?
My parents have always like thought it was pretty cool and pretty dope. You know, their main thing was that I went to college and kept going with school, and so I did. You know.
Well, your brother took the load off too, right?
No, not really, because you know then it's like Hassan went to medical school. Like,
it became a comparison.
Yeah. Okay. But you know, I went to school though too, man. You know, I got my master's in business administration.
Wow. Nice.
So you know, I didn't, you know, I'm still brown at the end of the day, and my parents had that like, yo, get educated and like, you know, do your thing and whatnot. But, you know, my dad sat me down in college because, you know, when I was like maybe 20-ish, this is when I started touring. And this is when my grades in college, I'll never forget. I was on tour and I had midterms. Like I had a show in San Diego, which is like a 2-hour drive. And I had a midterm at 7:00. And then I had a show at 9:00.
That's so cool.
It's a 2-hour drive. So it was like, how
you brag about that a little bit? You're like, hey, professor, I gotta go on. I got a show.
Fun fact, there were certain professors who I used to play that card all the time. I'd be like, at the beginning of the semester, first day of class, after class, I'd be like, professor, like, you know, I'm a touring artist, and like sometimes my schedule is such and such. You know,
you're like the athlete in high school. It's like, yo, I got a game.
Right. And so certain professors would be like, yeah, well, you know, it is what it is. And then some professors would be like, really? Like, oh, that's amazing. And I'm like, yo, it's an easy
one of your music videos on the screen.
Yeah, this is like, yo, I'm getting an A in this class for sure.
That's awesome.
So I wasn't like a good student. I didn't get good grades, but like I just kept going with it and kept trying and like kept pushing forward. At first it was to make my parents happy, but then afterwards, like I was really happy that I did it. You know what I mean? But my parents have always been mad supportive with the music and just cool. And, you know, they're not really like in it. Like, you know, it's never been like, oh, like, we're going to help you put your album out or something like that. Like
yeah.
It's never been like that. But, you know, like, I think for them, it made a lot more.
Mom actually came to like your meet and greet, right?
Yeah.
What did that mean to you? Like, and like having your meet and greet and having your mom there?
Yeah, no, that was dope. That was super dope. You know, like, it let my mom know that like, that there's a community of people that like, you know, are mess with what I do, and, you know, that think what I do is cool, and that, you know, my homie started a chai cafe in New York, and, you know, we're here in the city and we're playing my music at the cafe. You know, it was like a real intimate thing. It wasn't like it was a million people there, you know, but it was just really dope to have it there. And, you know, my parents actually, they saw me open for Lupe Fiasco. So that was pretty dope. And then like some of their friends were like, oh, Lupe Fiasco, he had a superstar song or whatever. My mom was like, yo, my mom was like, yeah, Lupe, like he's somebody, huh? And I'm like, hey, Lupe was, you know, at one time he was up there and he's still like respected and got fans. You know, this was like a few years back. And then my dad saw me headline my first headline show in LA, and that was dope. That was a crazy show for me because like I did a headline show in my city, and like, you know, I sold like 135 tickets or whatever. Wow. You know what I mean? And
nice
to have like like all my homies got in free and stuff like that. So 135 tickets, that symbolized like 135 people that I don't know are here to see me rap. And I didn't have to beg them to come see me rap. Like they just wanted to because they fuck with the music, and like that meant a lot. And you know, afterwards, like after the show, like I'm not like a star, man. I'm not like a huge famous person or nothing like that. So like after the show, when people were coming up and like buying merch and taking pictures, and you know, a few people asked for autographs here and there or whatever, it's like it's like, damn, this is crazy. And my dad saw all that, and he was just like, whoa. He's like, I didn't know that like people rock with you like that.
That parental validation hits different.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, this is kind of cool. But
no, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know, there's so many famous people now. There's an unbelievable amount of, everybody's famous now for something, but not everybody has a lasting impact. And I think that, you know, the music that you're making and having these little moments, no matter how many people show up, is like, there's really people out there that, you know, get what you do. And only people that understand what you do and have experienced sort of those similar things will understand why it's important over having a million followers that you never see and that are there for a trend or something. So, you know, that's incredible. You should be proud of yourself.
Thanks,
we gotta wrap this up soon, but you mentioned your upcoming project. If there's anything else that you want people to know that's, you know, upcoming, or any sort of lasting last words for them, please feel free.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, I have a lot of new music in the cut, and I'm going to keep dropping it. In terms of the next album, like I have an album ready, but there's a few conversations going on behind the scenes. I got to get the business right. You know what I mean? And
do you have a title for it yet or no?
Tentative title is called Growing Pains. So
Growing Pains. Okay.
Yeah, Growing Pains. So it's like, it's not Growth Part 2 per se, but okay. it is the next
brand.
Yeah, the next evolution of growth. But this will probably be the last like growth piece, and then I'm gonna move on to a different theme. But yeah, it's gonna be called Growing Pains tentatively. I don't have a release date or a projected release. Just like I said, I got to get the business right on that side first. And
I guess if they go ahead and follow you on your social media and everything, they'll be able to see when that comes out.
Yep, at Hasib the Few. You know, I'm on Spotify as just Hasib. And, you know, I appreciate y'all, man, a lot. And just hearing the fact that you guys like listen to my shit and, you know, care enough to have me on your platform, it means a lot. And, you know, rest in peace, George Floyd.
It's an honor, man. Thank you for saying that. Before you go, this is Strange Flavors. And at the end of every Strange Flavors podcast, we like to ask the guest one question. And Shamir, if you want to ask that question, go ahead.
If you could describe yourself in any flavor, what would it be and why?
Oh, snap.
You weren't ready for that one, were you?
No. Okay. Like an ice cream flavor?
Any flavor that describes you and why it describes you.
Doesn't have to be your favorite. It could be. It doesn't have to be your favorite. Just
one
that would describe you.
I'm thinking. I would say
freestyle skills.
Yeah. I would say that like a coffee flavored ice cream. You know what I mean? Okay. Because it's like stay woke, but it's still chill. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. We haven't had one of those like zingy ones in a while. That's nice.
Yeah. Coffee ice cream, because the coffee is the stay woke part, but it's ice cream is still chill, and it's still like, you know.
That's such an incredible way to describe your music. Yeah. Like literally, like if you listen to Growth, it's literally like it's chill, but it's woke, dude.
Coffee.
That's amazing.
Not everybody comes up with something like that, so that's applause to you.
Good job.
That's Hasib. Hasib, thank you again for coming on to our podcast. We appreciate you. It was an honor to have you here. And we wish you the best of luck with your music and your engagement and all of your family stuff going on. Lots of love to you on your side.
Thank you, man. Much appreciated, y'all. Stay safe. Crazy times. You know what I mean? Thank you.
Yeah. And for everybody listening to another episode of Strange Flavors, it's been another week.
Another flavor.
A little less stranger.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you next time.
Lifestyles of the young and wild. Trying to get it footed on my toes for my callous. Standing on my own, being grown is the challenge. Money, women, weed, what we need is a balance. I just want a queen and some